Hey there. Somebody asked me what I thought about this men's conference thing, the Stronger Men's Conference deal with the dude getting kicked off the stage and sword swallower and the pole and whatever. Um, they wondered if I had some thoughts, and I do. The thoughts I have really feel strongly about. So forgive me if I come across too strong on this, but I am really tired. Sorry, the the backdrop. Did you notice the backdrop in this thing? Behind like Mark Driscoll and everything, like behind. I have this fake book backdrop, which is awesome. Of course, $9 on Amazon. But the point is, it's a gigantic motorcycle. I mean, it's just a huge, like fanciful illustration of a motorcycle. Why? And you might think, well, that's a strange thing to point out for this conference, and it is. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. It's not a big deal. But why? I mean, why a motorcycle? I don't have anything against motorcycles, um, but why are churches so invested in a culture that has no clue about masculinity, cannot articulate like a definitive, coherent idea of a masculinity that benefits everybody? Cannot do it. But in a culture that can't do it, why can't the church? Why is it always the same tropes, the same trite cliches about what masculinity is? That's not the deepest heart. Can't like I would love for us to communicate what it's for, what masculinity is for. And it's not for motorcycles. I'm sorry. No offense, motorcycle enthusiasts. You're awesome. Sorry about my computer. It goes in and out. That's not masculinity. That has nothing to do with it. You can have motorcycles. You can be jacked. You can have the tats. You can be, I don't know, awesome with guns and martial arts and have a big truck and stuff like that and be a complete loser as a man. Like you can totally miss the point. You can be very unmanly, have all that stuff. You can have the big deep voice, be 6'4", play football. And here's why. Here's what it is. I keep trying to say this. I said it in The Men We Need, this book, but not everybody's going to read it, and I understand that. I think we're made to be keepers of the garden. That's the job that specifically Adam was given at the very start. So he has this sphere of influence, and he's supposed to watch over it, protect it. I think the Hebrew is shamar there, but I think it means watch over, protect, but also cultivate. So he's got this sphere of influence, and he's supposed to protect it from threats and allow, like in any garden, imagine this, in any garden, like there are species that are vulnerable that wouldn't survive in the wilderness, but with you around in a garden, they can bloom and flourish and be beautiful and like I believe this is our role when we're at our best. That's what we're supposed to do. We use whatever gifts we have, whatever resources we have, whatever strength we have to be keepers of the garden. And it so happens everybody around us gets to flourish because of that if we do that. If we bring security, not insecurity, let's say we're married, our role, I feel like we're at our best. I'm at my best when my wife feels secure. She finds me very attractive when I make her feel secure. And by the way, I'm not outdoorsy. I can't fix anything. I wish I could. Last time I was on a motorcycle, literally, and maybe this is why it bothered me. Literally, I hit a parked truck on the motorcycle. So it's a long story. I wrote about it in Life is Hard, God is Good, Let's Dance. But so I don't have all that, but you don't have to. You can make people around you feel secure with your words, with whatever resources you have. You just don't bring insecurity in. And to the extent that you do that, your wife finds it very attractive that you bring security in. And you can be jacked and have all of that stuff, all the trappings. But if you make your wife feel insecure, she'll actually resent your jacked body. She'll resent your awesome truck. If you're flirting with other women or you're sarcastic with her, you cut her down, you make her feel insecure, she'll be repulsed by you. And you don't have to have all those things. And your wife can be very drawn to you because you make her feel secure. That's good news. But it just gets at something. It's like, it just tells me, because women are so brilliant and intuitive, like who we are supposed to be And it really does match up with this keeper of the garden thing. But they don't tell people this. Like, I just want young guys to know this in particular, or guys in general. Like, as soon as you tell them, they get it like that. Honestly, my son, he was 9 years old. I love telling this story. He was like 9, and I came in and I said the right thing. See what time it is. I got time. I came in and I actually said the right thing. He was picking on his sister, and I'm like, Justice, she's like 6. Like, what? Why are you picking on your sister? Like, I shouldn't have to defend her against you. You're supposed to be her protector. She's vulnerable and smaller than you. Your job here, did you know this? Your job is to protect the vulnerable and protect your sister. I shouldn't have to come in and protect her from you. You're betraying your role. And I kind of stumbled into that when I said that. I was just kind of thinking out loud. But he got it. And I honestly don't remember he ever doing that again. Seriously. I think a light went on, click. Oh, I'm supposed to be a protector of the vulnerable. I got it. So imagine, like I tell young guys, like, you're in your physical prime. You might be 22 years old. You're in your physical prime. You have a desire to take risks. You've got all this ability. That's to defend people, not to threaten them. Ideally, when people see a group of young guys walking down the street, like, now we know how much they're responsible for crimes. Young guys. They have no clue what they're here for. We should see a group of young guys coming down the street and go, oh, good. Good, they're in our neighborhood. We're safe. We got strong, fast, like, guys that'll step up and defend the vulnerable. Of course, we don't do that because that's not what they're taught. But they should be. And again, a lot of times it makes their heart beat faster when they have this mission in life. And you don't have to be, again, tough. You don't have to be a motorcycle guy. You don't have to be an outdoorsman. I'm not. I call myself what do I call myself? An avid indoorsman. Yeah. So that's good news. You just use whatever resources you have, whatever strength you have. And for me, like, I have words. I can build people up. I can refuse to be sarcastic. I can refuse to bring insecurity into my home. I want there to be peace around me. I saw a thing in the news, maybe you saw this too. It was a bunch of dads. It was a high school, and I think it was in Georgia. But it was just fighting every day at the high school, which is bedlam, but the students fighting. But some dads said, well, then we're showing up. And they did. And they all wore matching shirts, and they just showed up every day, and they were there at school. And they would make jokes, and they'd sit there, and they'd talk to the kids coming in, and everybody's temperature just went down. Like, the kids were happier. There was peace. I'm like, that is masculine. That is a very beautiful thing. But if guys aren't, again, they're not shared this vision for being a keeper of the garden, what's the vision? And for the church, I get it. If Andrew Tate's going to spread his toxic stuff. See, he's not manly at all, by the way, Andrew Tate. Not manly at all, because of this definition of being manly. If you define it by the trappings and the tropes and the motorcycles and the cars and stuff, sure he is. The women, like, he does all that. But he's actually not manly at all, because he uses people and he betrays the vulnerable, like young women around him. He's ultimately betraying them. He's not leading them to more security. He's all about himself. He's very unmanly. Don't respect it. And young guys look up to him like crazy, even in Christian schools. Like, they actually think that he's got something going on. So for the church to come along and go, yeah, motorcycles, yeah, that's manliness. Like, no, it's not. No, there's something much deeper, much better, much more beautiful, much more life-giving. And like the guys who walk into the school, like, it just brings security. And now we're talking, but you have to explain it. So I did write the young men's version of this book. I'm not a good promoter, but I do hope that you will consider getting this for people that are graduating or something, and say, hey, you might even look through it and be able to put it in their hands and say, hey, this reminded me of you, and I thought you would really appreciate this. But in here, I lay out what I'm talking about here in a way that I hope young guys can relate to. It can be coming out of middle school all the way up to college for that, I think. I tried not to insult anybody's intelligence, so I think college guys would still think it's cool. Yeah, so I think people need to know. I'm just even whether you get the book or not, fine, but maybe you could even, like, explain this at your church or something. Like, this is being a keeper of the garden is where it's at, and actually brings life to people around us instead of taxing them and bringing them down. We can be a source of life, and that is a wonderful masculine thing too.